And it's a new day and a fresh episode of Business Morning on Channels Television. I'm Ladi Williams.
Oh, you're welcome to an hour of Business Talk. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Before we start our discussion for today, let's see what's in the news. We start with the global oil prices, where oil fell today for the first session in 4 amid renewed concerns about demand recovery as more restrictions are imposed to curb COVID-19 infections. Brent crude was down 0.6% at $71.80 a barrel, having risen 1.7% yesterday. U.S. oil was down 55 cents, which is 0.8%, at $67.81 a barrel, after gaining 1.2% in the previous session. Fresh outbreaks fueled by the Delta variant of coronavirus are raising concerns about the strength of the economic recovery globally and heating demand for oil and other commodities.
And back here, the Fiscal Responsibility Commission says the Federal Road Safety Corps failed to remit 5.1 billion naira into the Federation account. The FRC made the allegation at the ongoing public hearing on 2024 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper organized by the House of Representatives Committee on Finance in Abuja. According to the FRC, the unremitted fund is said to be part of the revenue generated by the agency between 2016 and 2019. The Commission explained that government agencies are expected to remit 80% of their operating surplus to the CRF according to the Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2007.
And still in Nigeria, 900 billion naira. That's what MultiChoice Nigeria Limited, the owner of DSTV, has been ordered to pay to the Federal Inland Revenue Service. A statement released by the FIRS says that Tax Appeal Tribunal sitting in Lagos upheld the FIRS submission in the dispute over a total of 1.8 trillion naira tax backlog and directed MultiChoice Nigeria Limited to deposit 50% of the total amount with the Federal Inland Revenue Service plus a sum equal to 10% of the said deposit as a condition for further hearing of the appeal. The Tax Appeal Tribunal has been adjourned to September the 23rd for report of compliance with its order and continuation of the hearing. Meanwhile, MultiChoice Nigeria has responded, saying that as a law-abiding corporate citizen, they will continue to engage constructively with the FIRS in an attempt to resolve the matter. And GDP is out for the second quarter of 2021. It's up higher than a lot of projections. It's now at 5.01%. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more with Damilola Akimbami. Damilola Akimbami is the head of research at Financial Derivatives Company. And that's just after this break. Please stay with us. You're welcome back. You're still watching Business Morning on Channels Television. Well, Nigeria's gross domestic product grew by 0.51% year-on-year in real terms in the first quarter of 2021, slower than the 1.87% growth recorded in the corresponding quarter of 2020, but higher than 0.11 recorded in the previous quarter, which was the fourth quarter of 2020. The figures for the second quarter shows that the economy grew 5.01. That's like the reverse of what it was in the first quarter. Well, to help us understand the details of it, we have Damilola Akimbami, as we earlier introduced, the head of research at Financial Derivatives, joining us this morning. Good to have you again, Damilola.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so this is higher than I don't think anyone got this high.
No, significantly higher than the market's expectations.
Expectations. So what do you think made it this high?
Well, it's just base effect. Because, we're coming from a very poor base, which is Q2 2020, and that's when we recorded a sharp contraction of -6%. So obviously, once your base is very low, definitely that the impact is magnified. So we also know that obviously since then we've seen recovery and resumption of business and economic activities across most sectors. Domestic and international trade has picked up. So what we've seen right now is, at least in the first half of the year, the Nigerian economy has grown by about 2.7%. And that still puts us on track for the IMF's growth projection for the country for this year, which is around 2.5%. So that means in the second half of the year, Nigeria should be growing by about roughly 3% to still bring us to about 2.5 to 3% full year growth. So we've recorded 3 consecutive quarters of positive growth. So that shows that Nigeria definitely is on its growth trajectory. But like I mentioned earlier, it's primarily because of base effects.
So should we be excited?
Oh,
yeah,
well,
because when you say base effect, it sounds like...
if you look at, if we analyze the breakdown of the sectors now, if you look at both non-oil and oil sector, oil is very important to us because of the revenue impact and the external position impact. But the oil sector contracted even further by almost 13%. And if you look at the numbers released by the NBS, also production levels to drop to about 1.6 million barrels in Q2. Bear in mind that this is inclusive of condensate, so if we remove about 400,000 barrels, that puts you to about 1.2, 1.3 million barrels produced in Q2. And if you look at that quarter also, oil prices increased compared to the previous quarter. Oil prices averaged about $69 per barrel compared to the previous quarter. So that just shows you that Nigeria is more production sensitive than price. So you can be experiencing higher oil prices, but if your production levels are not commensurate, you might not necessarily feel the impact. And that's even output, talk less of the revenue impact and the impact on Forex. And bear in mind also quickly, I want to, before I go further into the breakdown, I want to mention that, yes, because you mentioned that, oh, wow, should we be excited? Right. Bear in mind that the year-on-year growth was 5.01%, but if you look at the quarter-on-quarter growth performance, the Nigerian economy actually contracted by about 0.79%, and that's because of seasonality, because we know in Q2 that's the beginning of the planting season, so obviously output levels have declined. So now back to the sectorial breakdown. I've talked about oil. Now, the non-oil sector was the major driver of growth. The oil sector grew by about almost 7%, non-oil sector grew by about almost 7%. And contributes about 95% to GDP. And if you look at what constituted this increase in the non-oil sector, it was primarily from power, so electricity, gas, steam, and air conditioning supply. That grew by about 78%. That's significant. It was a sharp spike from 8%.
What drove that 78%?
So, you know, in Q2 2020, it was lockdown. Definitely. So a lot of people were working from home. Yeah. So that commercial demand, so obviously offices were closed down. So that demand wasn't there. But now we've seen that more people are still working remotely, but we've seen a lot of businesses reopen. So a lot of on-site activities are occurring. So definitely that impacted positively on the power sector. Transportation also grew significantly by about 76%, predominantly road transport, which grew by about 92%. Again, last year, it was lockdown, no movement, there was restriction. But now, obviously, we know that, like I said, domestic travel, international travel, so that also impacted positively on the growth numbers. Trade is another important sector that also grew by about 22%. Right. Obviously, the reopening of the borders has impacted positively. Last year, borders were closed, the borders were reopened sometime in December. So that has impacted positively on trade. Manufacturing also grew, construction also grew, and we know that the government has invested a lot, especially on road infrastructure. Now, if you look at these sectors that I've mentioned, they're not necessarily job elastic, apart from trade and construction, but these sectors have a significant impact on productivity. And if you can improve productivity, definitely output levels would increase. Now, if you look at the sectors that actually slowed, agriculture slowed, obviously because of seasonality and the insecurity that we are experiencing. We also know that, for instance, now, well, I mentioned earlier, slowed. ICT is interesting because one would say that, oh, because increased demand for data and what have you. But what I would say is that this time last year, in Q2 2020, there was no ban. The NCC rather had not imposed the ban on SIM card registration and whatnot. Definitely, we know that it was in April, early April, that the ban was lifted. Or I think there's a time lag. So we'll definitely see the positive impact of the removal of that ban in Q3 numbers. But
what about real estate?
Real estate, funny enough, real estate too actually slowed. So you'd have thought that, or it improved marginally, you'd have thought that, oh, because construction increased significantly, but cement manufacturing slowed. So what you could say also is that for construction, it's more about civil works. And like I mentioned, the government's investment in infrastructure. Real estate also is more about consumer demand, which we know that has been constrained because of low income. So that has affected real estate and cement manufacturing. So these are some of the numbers that we're seeing. So non-oil sector definitely was the driver of growth. The services sector is still the major contributor to GDP, then agri and industry.
Does it say we're going somewhere with our diversification, since we see it's the non-oil that actually drove this? Does it say that we're heading somewhere?
Yeah, well, it could point to that. But again, this diversification, this is output. So like I always try to emphasize, in terms of output, Nigeria is a well-diversified economy. But just looking at the number of activity levels that we have. But in terms of revenue, which is the main focus, we are still heavily dependent on oil. So that's why, despite the fact that oil contributes just about 7% to GDP, in terms of revenue, in terms of forex, it contributes over 80%. So you can't necessarily say that Nigeria or the government, federal government, has completely diversified away from oil in terms of revenue, or when you're looking at it from a revenue point of view.
So when can we expect to feel the impact of this growth, the ordinary man on the street?
Well, we know that the government has come up with a lot of reforms and plans. Was it on Tuesday that they talked about launching development plan, which will be launched sometime in October or December. So right now, Nigeria, despite this positive growth we are seeing, Nigeria is still experiencing, or is still in a recessionary gap. So what you need to do, you need to have a combination of the right policy reforms at the right time and also the right quantity. Because, for instance, if you are investing, like let's say $2 trillion or naira rather into your economy, but you need about 5 trillion, obviously that quantum is not enough to stimulate growth. So it's a combination of several factors, and you have to have a long-term growth trajectory that is also job creating, because you need to create more job opportunities so that more people are employed and so you can produce more. Because if you look at the Nigerian economy now, growth rate, cumulative first half is about 2.7%. That's still lower than your population growth rate of 3%, meaning you're not producing enough to feed the people.
Feed the people.
The potential growth rate for the country is about 8%. We're growing at 2.7%, so therefore, that means they're underutilized resources. So you need to be able to, you need to implement some reforms that would address these issues and again have that long-term growth trajectory, because it's not going to happen overnight. So you have to have a plan and ensure that as you are putting these things in place, you're also creating more job opportunities. Nigeria is already tagged the poverty capital. We have one of the lowest life expectancy ratio of about 53%. So obviously, where there is poverty, there's social unrest, and obviously that would affect
so let's zero in a bit on agriculture. I mean,
yes.
after all, this commodities
yes, it's a commodities segment.
And like you noted, it slowed. Should we expect the next quarter to be better, especially, I mean, the harvest season is here and all that. Should we say that it's just because of the planting season? So the next data we should get should actually give us a little bit of hope.
Improvement.
I think for agriculture, the third quarter would be, compared to Q2, will be relatively around the same levels. Why I'm saying that, because yes, we keep talking about the harvest season. The peak of the harvest season is usually around September, October, which is the end of the third quarter, the beginning of the fourth quarter rather. So you're not going to see that impact being felt on agri numbers for Q3. And bear in mind, we still have the issue of insecurity that is there to be addressed.
I mean, you have curfew, for instance, in Plateau State, the northern part now, there's curfew. We had the government.
And these are the, this is the food belt of the country. So definitely, I think the agri numbers are still going to remain around current levels. They'll still be positive, maybe around 1%, 1.5%, but I don't think we're going to see that much of an improvement in Q3.
Okay. Well, commodity prices still are rallying at this point, even though there are concerns over Chinese demand, easing. What do you see going forward, with, especially with iron ore? I see that iron ore is actually rallying at this point.
Iron ore was one of the commodities that responded positively in terms of the Chinese data. So their concerns are basically waning in terms of Chinese demand, because again, China is the largest importer of raw materials. So anything that happens to China would definitely impact in whatever form on the global economy. So we've seen that China too has resumed operations at a shipping port, and we discussed this on Tuesday. So definitely the fact that shipping has resumed, obviously supply chains issues would be resolved at least to an extent. So we saw commodities rally in response, even oil rallied in response as a result of this. So I feel that because we're seeing now data showing that China sort of is addressing is COVID infection rates. If that continues and they continue to record a declining number of COVID infections, then that will impact positively on commodities, like I mentioned, because demand, that means that that demand recovery is there. And even OPEC, when they meet next week, Tuesday, on September 1, you know that when they increase production by 400,000 barrels for 5 months between July to December, they issued that note of caution that, look, but still a little bit skeptical about the recovery in demand, about recovery in oil consumption because of COVID. So if China's numbers come out better and stronger, and we start to see an increase in vaccination rate across more countries, then we still have some hope for demand recovery, and that would impact positively on
there seems to be a
commodities.
gap between Brent and WTI at this point. What's causing that?
Well, Brent is light crude, so we use that as a proxy for even Nigeria's Bonny crude, which is also a light sweet crude, and WTI is the U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude, which is shale. So definitely we tend to see that difference. Also in terms of the way the different types of oil are extracted and produced also impacts on that, and definitely demand for sweet crude is more, and because you can use sweet crude for more things than shale crude, which is heavy crude, and obviously the amount of investment and refining required, that goes into it also leads to that difference in the price of crude. But we usually use Brent because, again, it's similar to Nigeria's Bonny.
And it's back above $70
It's back above $70, so which is good news. But more importantly, Nigeria needs to ramp up its production levels. I mean, OPEC has increased our quota to about 1.8 million barrels. So, and we're producing about 1.4.
And unfortunately, the GMD and NPC still talked about the issue of theft. It doesn't seem like we know how to.
That's one of the major issues why Nigeria hasn't been able to take advantage of that. Because you say, okay, initially the quota was at 1.4, they increased it to 1.5, now it's at 1.8, but we're still at 1.4. So it's because of the theft, the disruption to pipeline vandalism, and also force measures that have been implemented by these international oil companies. So that's why Nigeria hasn't been able to ramp up or increase its production levels.
And worryingly also, we do not know for certain our consumption daily. That's worrying also.
Yes, that's also
a concern.
Anyway,
let's just take us through activities in the global commodity space.
Yeah, so like we've just discussed, we are seeing that rally in commodity prices, and more importantly, wheat and corn, which are some of our imports, and we're seeing an improved supply in the U.S., which is obviously impacting on price. So because there's improved weather and an increase in production, that has led to a fall in the prices of these commodities. Cocoa, we export cocoa. We're experiencing increased supply, or there's increased supply in Ivory Coast and Ghana, who are the two largest producers of cocoa globally. So that has dampened cocoa prices. That's not good news for us, because we need cocoa prices to be higher than what it is right now. So these are some of the things that we're seeing happening in the commodities market. And I think at least in the next couple of weeks, this will continue to play out. For oil, I think oil will continue to trade around $70 per barrel. And bear in mind, again, we're entering the end of the summer driving season in the U.S., so definitely for demand is going to ease up. So it will be interesting to see what the outcome of the OPEC meeting would be next week, Tuesday. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Damilola Akinbami, Head of Research at Financial Derivatives. Thank you for sharing your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
So we'll take a break now. When we come back, we do have another conversation for you. It's something very revolutionary. Join us after the break.
Welcome back. Now to our next conversation. Recently, Samsung introduced a new revolutionary foldable phones, and they say they continue to lead the smartphone industry. Well, let's find out more with Solomon Oshebelo, master trainer of Samsung Electronics Nigeria. Great to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Morning. So Samsung is bringing back foldable phones. Yeah, what is outstanding with this new revolution?
Okay, so the market definitely has evolved beyond what we're used to, like 10 years ago. And the announcement of the two foldables, in this case, the Fold 3 and the Flip 3, has also set the pace for the industry. Now, it's not just about introducing products into the market because people probably want it. You also need to consider where the security aspect of this product also comes in. So we're on business morning, obviously, and you also want to know how good this product actually would be for business professionals. So one of the things that we put into consideration is the security of your contents, your confidential documents, the kind of communication you're having on the devices with our Samsung Knox security. So both devices are not just stylish and trendy. They're not just productive in their own way, but they're also encrypted with the top grade security to actually guarantee that whatever the data that you're doing on the product, you don't have to worry about any form of breach or leakage of your information or whatsoever. So the market has actually gone. Data is safe. Market is moving away from conventional smartphones. So we're leading the way right now with foldables, because foldable is going to become the next mainstream. So you can quote me on that.
Are you working with data providers and all that for you to be able to, you know, assure people that their data is actually safe?
Okay, so with Samsung Knox Security, it's actually the type of layer that we've been testing for many, many years. It's not just a new solution that we just introduced on Samsung devices. We've been on it for many, many years. And it's actually a multi-layered security system that is built on our devices. And when we're talking about encryption, it's not just applied on software level, it's also applied on the hardware level. So there's a physical hardware that is built into the device that guarantees that whatever you're keeping safe on the device is not accessible by anyone without your own permission.
Right.
Okay, so you have this, your good is good enough tagline. What's that?
Oh, yes, I actually love this. Is good enough? I would make a simple explanation. So naturally, humans were meant to be aspirational. We are. So you find someone living in a one-room apartment, looking to rent a two-bedroom, and then after that, you're looking to a three-bedroom. Then you're looking to move to a duplex. And then you're thinking about owning a mansion. So the same way applies to when you actually have a smartphone that you're using currently. To you, you probably feel it does what you actually need. It's good enough, right? But then in Samsung, we're always working with visionaries. So we look at what are some of the things that actually will make your life a whole lot easier. And in this case, people want bigger smart screens on their smartphones, but they also want something that is durable enough and still comfortable to carry, which means it should be pocketable. So you have something that is actually this large in terms of screen size, but then it's still very, very pocketable in this aspect. So when we ask you if good is good enough, you're already answering the question by yourself, because you know that there's always the next best thing, which is what Samsung always brings.
So what's the best thing that you're giving us, apart from being so expensive, if at all?
Okay, so if you're talking about expensive, that means you're going towards the cost of the devices already. We're offering trade-in services, just to chip that in here, and also device financing for up to 12 months. The trading aspect is one of the things that we started doing that was from last year, and it's received a lot of applause from our consumers in Nigeria, because you currently have a device that you're using. And definitely, people have been asking, where can I bring my device to actually trade this in and pick up the next best thing? In this case, we're moving towards the foldable. So we've opened that channel, and it's now possible for you to actually bring in some of your selected Samsung models. In this case, we're considering the S10 series, the S20, the S21, the Notes. And by the way, we're even trying to make sure that we bring our existing Notes users to the ecosystem of foldables, because this
the Notes
is the
will
next.
also fold at some point.
This is the next. We are actually bringing our Notes users, existing Notes users, because you can even still use the S Pen functionalities on the Fold 3. So taking existing users to what you currently have and introducing you to what you're supposed to be using, which is the next thing in the industry.
All right, so looking at this phone right here, you know, Nigerians love their screen guards. So I'm wondering, how do you attach a screen guard to this? Or do you even need a screen guard?
Okay, so to start off, you don't need a screen guard. And then you would definitely ask me why. Because you're wondering, how is this even folding in the first place? So to start off, this is actually glass. But it's a different type of technology in glass manufacturing. We call it UTG. It's ultra-thin glass. So it's built on a layer of polymer as well. I don't want to bore you with the technicalities, but if you're wondering how this is possible, this is where engineering genius actually comes in. And it's one thing we deliver in Samsung. And
so if this phone falls now on a hard ground,
that what will happen?
What happens?
So to cut this just a little bit, anything that is glass can break under the right pressure. But in terms of durability, what we've been able to do is improve up to 80% the durability of this display over its predecessor. And you can even fold and unfold for up to 200,000 times, which means if you fold and unfold this device 100 times in a day, you can do that for up to 4 years. And you don't have to worry about the display or worry about the screen.
No flex issues.
Nothing like that. You don't have to worry about it at all.
What about maintenance? And you know, a lot of people talk about Samsung replacing the screen is more expensive than buying a new phone and things like that.
Okay, so it's also one of the feedbacks that we've gotten from consumers. And in Samsung, I must really be honest with you, we're very, very concerned about feedback from our consumers because we take them very seriously. They help us to become better at what we do. So we introduced Samsung Care Plus. So Samsung Care Plus is actually a screen guarantee insurance that guarantees that within the space of 1 year, if you have a damage to the screen, right, you only get to pay 20% of the value of it. Samsung is taking care of 80% of it. However, within the first 30 days of you picking up the device, you are recommended to actually register for the Samsung Care Plus service on the Samsung members application.
Okay.
This is pre-installed on the phone. It's not like you need to download it or anything. You don't need to do that. It is pre-installed. Or you can even register for it on www.samsungcareplus.com/AFR. So you're covered for a period of 1 year in case there's any sort of damage to the screen, but you need to register for the service first.
So you register online, or do you have places where people can go get this phone, get your other products, you know, get information, and, you know, like you said, you want feedback and all that?
Yeah.
Okay, so the devices, we are going to be starting pre-order. That's actually from September 6th to the 20th. And it's going to be available in all our Samsung authorized retail stores. But for this Samsung Care Plus I was talking about, you can register for it with the URL that I just mentioned. Once again, www.samsungcareplus.com/AFR. Or on the Samsung members application, which is pre-installed on the device itself.
All right.
Well, you need to do that within 30 days.
30 days.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about, you know, assembly of these phones now. They're mostly assembled outside Nigeria. Are there any plans to, you know, have some kind of, you know, assembly plan for phones in Nigeria?
Nothing is impossible. That's one thing that we believe in Samsung.
Right.
Nothing is impossible. However, it's always one step at a time. So right now, there's so many things that needs to be put into consideration. And we know that we have a lot of consumers and a lot of users here in Nigeria. So we have factories that actually are situated outside of Nigeria, like you said, which is where manufacturing and assembling actually goes on. And it's been like that for a long time, and we continue to expand as well. It's not impossible to have one in Nigeria, but as of this moment, we don't have any in Nigeria currently.
So what's the plans for Samsung? Samsung for Nigeria, Samsung Nigeria, what's the bigger picture?
One of the things that I can guarantee you here is you can definitely be expecting top-notch products from Samsung, and not just products that we just decide to dish into the market, but products that addresses pain points of customers' usage, things that consumers really, really need, things that enhances your lifestyle, how it makes it easy for you to get things done, not just effectively, but also in a productive manner. That is one thing we guarantee in Samsung, and we always continue to deliver on this. Okay,
just before we let you go, can you show us the phone and some of the features that are outstanding?
And I'm curious about something. This front-facing camera.
Okay.
This one here. So you have that hole there, right?
It's actually not cut out in this case, surprisingly. It's not. So what we've been able to do in the case of this is that we use what we call a UDC. So UDC is an under-display camera, which means you cannot see the camera when it is actually on a black screen. It looks completely flush. We don't have a camera cut out right on the display, but it is buried under the screen. And this camera is intended not for selfies, but mostly for video calls and face unlock. Majorly. Because, you know, when you have an obstruction, when you have something covering this camera itself, when it's laying under the display, you don't expect it to be as sharp as something that is basically cut out right on the screen this way.
Okay, that's, how many megapixels is that?
So you have a 12 megapixel camera. So you have the normal for your ultra wide, where you want to capture like a very wide angle view of so many people. And you have another 12, which is for your main shot, for taking normal shots with your friends. And then you have the telephoto for when you want to actually move a bit closer to subject without leaving the space where you're standing. There's so many technicalities. I don't want to go into too many technicalities because we will go back and forth on this for a long period of time. But in terms of functionality, there are so many things that you can do with this. So take, for example, I know we all have friends that don't know how to take pictures of us very well. You will take pictures of them in a very good way, but when you give them your phone, they don't take good pictures of you. But right now, if I'm pointing my camera at you, you can't see what I'm seeing. But when I do this, I can see exactly what you're seeing. So it's easy for me to use this kind of features to even control what I'm about to take by even letting you take the picture even without me taking it by myself.
Okay, and yet I can still control the quality and say, okay, you can take now or move this way and don't move this way.
Yes, you can. So all you just have to do is give it to them, say, hold it, let me take the picture myself.
Just hold it.
Just hold it.
So another thing I would like to know, I mean, we are broadcast journalists, and these days, you know, you don't necessarily have to wait for a camera I'm on the field and something just happens and I need to get my phone and get some visuals.
Fantastic.
You know, what can I get with this?
Okay, so we have something that we actually call quick shots. In the case of the fold and also the flip, the power button here, when you press it twice, it launches the camera real quick. Now imagine if you're supposed to be having a meeting, you can simply just sit your phone on the table this way.
Right.
What usually happens in most cases is that when you are having meetings, because right now with the pandemic, most of us have resort to virtual meetings.
Right.
Yes.
As journalists as well, you're going out because your phone has become your mobile office. You want to record things like real quick. You don't have time to actually waste. But sometimes you're also looking for where to place your device, like a placeholder, where you want to conveniently hold like a meeting. But if you can set it up in sizes like this, between 90 and 115 degrees, it makes it a whole lot more convenient for you than having to look for where to actually place your device. And it's so comfortable.
Interesting.
It's so easy to do. Same thing applies to the flip as well.
Too.
The same thing. They just
So, Ini, what's your favorite? Which one is your?
Which one looks more feminine?
I think, I don't know. This one? And the color. What color is this?
Okay, so this is the cream. We call this a cream.
Cream.
Yeah. There are actually 4 different colors. So there's the black, there's the cream, there's the lavender, and then there's the green. So the flip 3, that is this.
Right.
And for the fold 3, we have the black, the army green, and silver for this.
Nice.
I know
I'll take this one.
Yeah, I guess that's much. I guess that's much.
All right, Solomon Oshibeluo, thank you so much,
Thank
Master
you.
Trainer at Samsung Electronics Nigeria. Thank you so much for sharing this new revolution with us. And we do hope that this will get into the hands of many Nigerians.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much for
Because I
having
know
me.
Nigerians love...
They love their phones.
They love their phones.
They actually do.
And like you noted, these days, the world has gone virtual.
Yeah.
With or without COVID, things
Yes.
are new now. So we're going to need a whole lot of,
Exactly. A lot of
devices.
gadgets, new,
Yes, correct.
new tech.
Yes,
with
to live up
phones.
to expectation officials for our job. And,
Yes.
you know, we don't have to wait for the big cameras.
Exactly.
Correct.
Because
Very correct.
So thank you so much
Thank
for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having
And
me.
enjoy the rest of your day. Well, let's
Thank
go
you.
over to the markets now. Will Ibong is standing by. Apparently, the joy we had in the equities was just for a brief moment. But Will, what's the details of it?
Morning, Ini.
Good morning.
Yeah, the joy was brief, but if I had the Samsung flip phone, as in to monitor the market, maybe it would increase my the perception I'm
Let's tell
having
them
right
to
now.
come to the markets.
That's true. Yesterday, the market booked a 6 billion naira loss at the close of trading as investors took profit in the shares of Dangote Sugar, GTCO, and Zenith Bank, despite analyst expectations of improved buy activity in the banking counters as investors await their audited half-year results. The all share index and the market cap decreased from the previous day's trading high of 39,460.68 points and 20.59 trillion naira respectively to 39,449.82 points and 20.553 trillion naira. Meanwhile, the total volume of trades increased by about 0.8% to 198.33 million units, valued at 1.05 billion naira, and exchanged in over 3,300 deals. Sectoral performance was broadly negative as 4 key indexes were in the red, except for the industrial goods sector, which was unchanged. We wonder what's happening there. We move over to the unlisted markets, where the bear continues to tighten his grip on the markets. The NASD and the index and the market cap fell by about 0.81%, as we see there, to 730.28 points, and the market cap was at 634.74 billion naira. There was a decline in the total volume, value, and deals transacted yesterday. We move over to the fixed income market, where the bond was bullish as the average yield fell by 5 basis points to 11%. Across the benchmark curve, the average yield was flat at the short end, but declined at the mid and long segments due to demand for the February 2028 and the July 2045 bonds, respectively. Trading in the Treasury bills market was generally calm as traders concentrated on the Treasury bills, the NTB primary market auction, which took place yesterday. Total trade volumes were lower compared to the previous day, though the tempo for sell-offs remains steady. But to give us more insight and talk more about this, we have Babajide Sholanke, fixed income dealer at FSDH Merchant Bank. Good morning, Babajide.
Hi, good morning, Will. Nice to have, thanks for having me on the show.
It was good to have you. Tell us what happened at the NTB auction. We see that there was an oversubscription.
Yes, there was an oversubscription, but 150 billion higher than the offer. The central bank accommodated more than what is offered before. So some of the significant drops in on the longest term, from about 7.4 to 6.8%. And it's understandable because what's just going on, the NCB appears to be the only available risky instrument out there that people can actually participate in, particularly in the short-term money market instruments. And the significant amount of money flowing into that particular market that those participants, aside the banks and the FDI, they can participate in HOMO. So a significant portion of the cash held by PFA as a management partner competing with the banks and other investors in that space. So we've seen that demand compressing the supply, given the limited supply in offer.
Thank you for that breakdown. We'll move over. What should investors expect following the federal government's plans to commence the issuance of $6.2 billion Eurobond in September?
So automatically, what that means is we're going to see a lot of funds in the market, a lot of free cash, high balances flow into that offering. Once federal government flows the Eurobond, so we're going to see a migration of funds from the local space into the Eurobond space. Of course, plus or minus, it benefits the country. There can raise that Eurobond, about $6 billion Eurobond. What happens is that almost stability in the exchange rate space. You have less CRR and less restrictive monetary policy in the system. That's in terms of stability in the financial economic policy outlook. But in the immediate, we're going to see, a transfer of funds from the local state into the Eurobond state.
Okay, speaking of that, we just had a better than expected GDP growth, which is about 5.01%. What do you think will be the mood in the market?
Well, I think the biggest mood will be in the central bank. They're reducing their checks, maybe posting champagne and printing glasses, because the central bank has said over and over again that the main focus for them to achieve economic growth. So they've been expanding the lending, for the college targeted social lending to critical sectors, good enhancing employment generating for the economy. And they've been saying that over and over in their MPC communique that, that's the main reason why the GDP is growing. So the fourth elevation comes from the central bank because, as you know, inflows have not been going into the real sector. The central bank has been doing specialized lending, lending below market rates to the real sector. So we can see that support of the central bank actually, helping to boost, the GDP, the general economic activity. So the positive for the capital market, for the equity market, and the fixed income market in particular, the investments they were talking about is that that shows that and that's a positive growth trajectory. That's even a positive for the Eurobond issuance from the government, because what that means is that investors have a position that the future part of the Nigerian economy will be positive, giving this positive growth, and that means the recovery from the recession is strong. So they'll be more interested in investing. That means the economy is strong, the bouncing back, the government can pay back more income contributed to the government, back tax and other sources.
Okay, so thank you so much.
General positive mood.
Great. That's what we're looking for in the market. So, Ini, back to you.
Thank you so much. I know in the coming days we'll see the impacts of the GDP figures in the various markets. Well, thank you so much, Will. We'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll head to London. Do stay with us. welcome back. We now head to our London studios where Juliana is standing by. Hello, Juliana. Good morning.
Good morning, Annie.
Yeah, so UK car production fell to its lowest in 65 years. Is this just about the chip shortage?
Well, it's chip shortage, but also pingdemic, a word that isn't going away anytime soon. And it's a pretty big story. It's one of the reasons why the FTSE All-Share is in the red at early trading. Just 53,500 cars were produced in Britain last month. As you said, this is the worst July performance since 1956. And there are two issues. The first one, the major one, is the global chip shortage. This is affecting not just car makers, but any technology company that relies on the component across the world. Toyota, the world's largest car producer, announced last month that over the next coming months they're going to have to halt some of their production by about 40%. Jaguar Land Rover, which is Britain's largest car maker, has also said that this is going to be a huge problem over the next coming months. So that's one of the reasons. Also, pingdemic has become a massive issue here in the UK. On August the 16th, it appears to have been somewhat sorted out, because if you are double vaccinated and you do get one of those pings by the NHS saying you've been in contact with somebody who has COVID-19, you don't have to isolate. But of course, the information or the data released by the Society of Manufacturers and Traders released today is looking back in the rearview mirror. So looking at July, lots of car companies, including Nissan and Jaguar Land Rover, had to stop production because they just did not have the staff to fill up the production line. So not great. And like I said, it's one of the reasons why the FTSE is trading in the red at early morning.
We hope it picks up. Well, the Financial Reporting Council plans to strengthen significantly its audits. What's that about?
Well, yeah, there's been a couple of scandalous auditing stories over the past couple of years. I think most notably it was the collapse of BHS and Carillion. And now the accounting watchdog is going to be looking at the ways it probes the big four accounting firms, PwC, EY, Deloitte, and the other, just because they have been in trouble over the past couple of weeks. Earlier this week, EY were fined, I believe, about £3.5 million because of the way it was handling Stagecoach and their accounting issues in 2017. Apparently, lots of senior partners within the firms are just not scrutinising the companies enough. So there is going to be an overhaul. This has been a long time coming. Lots of cross-party members of the British MPs have been looking into how things will be changing. So the FRC have made this announcement, and plans will be ongoing to make changes over the next couple of months.
And let's talk a little bit of crypto now. The UK regulator says that crypto exchange Binance has complied with June requirements. So what's the implication of this on especially investors and the sentiment around the markets?
Yeah, this is an interesting story, really, and how you interpret the Financial Conduct Authority's statement depends on whether you're interested in cryptocurrency or not. Here in Britain, the statement really is that Binance has been blacklisted from the UK, even though the FRC or the FCA did say that they have complied with the issues. This goes back to June, where they basically put a ban on trading on Binance.com because Binance were failing to make sure that customers were not laundering any funds. There was a serious probe, and they have released a statement saying that basically, yes, they are adhering to the issues that we raise, but they are still warning British customers not to use the platform. They don't think it's sustainable or reliable. But of course, we know, Bitcoin has reached $50,000, I believe, believe, earlier this week. Cryptocurrency is still important. I know you're probably going to be talking to Laddie about that. But yeah, so it still remains an issue. But look, you know, Binance is a massive platform, over $1.5 billion of currency. Cryptocurrency is traded on the platform every day, and UK customers aren't allowed to use it. But like I said, the headlines in British business news here in the UK is that it's basically been blacklisted, and the watchdog is advising UK customers not to use the platform.
Yeah, just like here, back here in Nigeria. Well, thank you so much, Julian. I'll talk to you later at 1:30 during Business Incorporated.
Okay, thank you.
So I know Laddie will have more on this story and a whole lot more. This is your tough, man.
Right. Well, that Binance news, well, the investors actually took it well, because looking at the market, everything is in red. But we have BNB, that's the coin for the Binance exchange. It's in the green, the only one top alt in the green, up about 0.13% at $491. Market cap is still above the $2 trillion mark. 24-hour volume traded $117.04 billion this morning. Bitcoin dominance is at 43.84%. Price of Bitcoin at 8 a.m., $47,286. It has broken the 47,600 support, so it could go lower from here. Who knows? It's down about 2.38%. 24-hour volume, $34.32 billion traded in Bitcoin this morning. Looking at the 4-hour chart there, we're looking at the Bollinger Band. Now we see the price is at the lower Bollinger Band, below the simple moving average. We still have that cross there for the MACD. It hasn't crossed back into bullish territory. It's going straight down into bearish territory, and volume seems to be sapping out on the 4-hour chart. The RSI not yet oversold, but nearing that point at this time. Price of Ethereum, $3,130, down 2.37%. 24-hour volume, $19 billion. Ethereum at this hour still above the $3,000 mark. Let's talk to Gilbert Jopata now, digital market analyst. Hello, Gilbert. Good to have you.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, we see Bitcoin, you know, breaking all the supports. 47,600 broken. Is it time to panic?
No, it isn't. We will have to see shorter pullback and higher price surge. And a pullback as this is actually healthy in the bull market. So there is nothing to worry about.
Okay, I believe you. Well, there's this issue with USDC. They're planning to be fully backed by the US dollar by September. Is it a risk they're not fully backed right now?
Actually, I believe that the irregularities of the fiat system will always catch up with stable currencies. But I believe the 100% fully back movement, which they are about moving into, is a response to the heavy criticism which they have had in recent time, and the removal of the 100% back claim by Commodities, because before now we actually thought it was 100% back by the status that was out there in Coinbase, which actually helped them become the world's second largest stable currency. So recently the issuing company has actually promised to make it 100% back by September. Though I believe that the irregularities of the fiat system will always catch up with stable currency, but I also believe that the 1 USDC to 1 US dollar ratio will bring more confidence to investors, because this is beyond the demand of regulators. But beyond this, I also think we should be looking at the value stable currency brings to the marketplace and how the users can take advantage of it.
All right, I guess the debate about stable coins will continue. Is it truly backed by the dollar? Anyway, Gilbert, what are you bullish on right now?
I'm so bullish on Cardano and Solana. Actually, they have actually performed greatly, but I believe there is room for overperformance.
Okay. All right, Gilbert, thanks so much.
All right, you're welcome.
Yeah, so, yeah, top alt market cap. Told you that time. BNB still the top gainer in the top alt by market cap at $490. It did break $500 Earlier, it's up by 0.52%, while others, Cardano, Doge, XRP, all in the red. So, Ini, this might be a buying opportunity or maybe a signal for you to stay on the side.
Yeah, stay on side. But please always remember that this is not a financial advice from Channels Television.
Right.
We're just reporting the market. Well, that's it on the program. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Remember, 1:30, we're back here, Business Incorporated.
And I'm Ladi Williams. Thank you so much for watching.